What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. There's certainly a lot of questions around Nintendo and their 2025 releases that still don't have any dates. However, it appears, based on some filings as well as an upcoming event, Nintendo continues to double down on those 2025 plans, and we'll go over some of that information here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a pretty big return when it comes to a studio with rhythm games in mind. Yeah, think back to the old days of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. We might be heading back in that direction. And then also, people are right now fearing for the worst when it comes to the PlayStation 3, as some are thinking Sony has now moved in quietly to go ahead and just shutter the digital store there. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with the PlayStation 4, but not necessarily a new game going to it into 2026, as we are seeing continued support for a platform that's going on now 12 years old. No, it's the opposite, as it appears at least one live service game is going to be ending support for the platform, and that's Genshin Impact. This we can see is posted. This is over on hoyolab.com. where they say, due to limitations related to hardware performance and platform application size, we'll be discontinuing support and updates for Genshin Impact on PS4 in future versions. Now, of course, PS5, that'll continue to operate normally. It's not affected by the removal and update discontinuation on PS4. And it seems that they have this in like a multi-tier setup in terms of it being discontinued. So game removal, in-game purchases, delisting, and then end of update support. That will be happening April 8th, 2026. So you still have some time there. Let's say you're still playing Genshin Impact on the PS4. I guess at that point to make plans to then move to another platform, which the obvious move then would be upgrading to PS5. You get like PC and I guess phone and stuff as well. But hey, look at it this way. With PS4, it's impressive stuff either way, since it'll have made it more than 12 years since its release to finally get to the point where it's being discontinued with a live service game like Genshin Impact. But something tells me, yeah, we're still going to hear about more and more games getting announced for the system, even going into 2026. Also, I did notice that there was a really good Humble Bundle that went live. I just wanted to point it out for anyone who maybe recently picked up like a PC handheld or just wants to load up on more games for your backlog on Steam that you're definitely going to play someday. But like you can see over on Humble Bundle, currently if you spend $12, they have 16 different items. And I was looking through this and said, wait a minute, that's okay. WB Play the Legends, Gotham Knights, that's what you got to lead with right there. But then they have like Back for Blood, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Fear Ultimate Shooter Edition. You have Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, or Shadow of War. They're both there. All the Batman Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, right? They have Arkham Origins in there, Mad Max, Suicide Squad. I mean, how can you pass that up? But Injustice. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here. I was just surprised. It's, I mean, $12. That's a pretty good deal for the most part, and easy to recommend that. You just usually get for Humble Bundle Steam codes. You just go over, redeem them there, and you're good to go. So just wanted to point that out in case you missed it. Oh, and one of the big August releases that I'm looking forward to is Lost Soul Aside. However, it had already been delayed once, so there's still concerns about it maybe being delayed again. Not necessarily something to expect at this point, though. As we can see, this was posted. This was over on X from Kami, who this was then pulled from WeChat. It was captured, machine translated. Basically, Lost Soul Aside has completed all development and will release on August 29th as scheduled. So great news there. Again, I'm looking forward to this one. It's with Sony doing their China Hero project, and this is one that, I mean, we should have already played and gone through and everything, but it's a situation of they needed more time, and here we are now into August. My only concern would have been if it went a little too much further into to the holidays, it might have gotten lost a bit. I think August 29th is still kind of pushing it, since it's like a day after Metal Gear Solid 3, and it starts to really crowd up as you go through August into September. But I'll certainly be checking this one out when it releases later on this month, so good to see it's now gone gold. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their 2025 plans that they still seem to have set up. And I say still seems because I think a lot of people at this point are expecting something from Nintendo to be delayed into 2026 that they've at least announced or alluded to coming out in 2025. Mostly because we're in August and you don't necessarily expect big games to come out as you go through December. So you start to, in your mind, eliminate different months. And you're like, okay, September, October, November, and they have 3 games that appear to be set for 2025. Technically 4, I guess, but let's go over this slide here. We can see this is part of their explanatory materials, and this was released with their investors stuff where they were going over their recent financial quarter. Of course, they do want to go over software that's coming up. Some that's been released naturally, Mario Kart World, Welcome Tour's in there, which is, I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's its own piece of software, I guess. It's funny they put that alongside of that. And, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is just a great game there. But either way, software to be released. We have Drag X Drive. Everyone, excitement there, I'm sure, August 14th. But then Kirby Air Riders is under 2025. And then Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is under this winter. And then Splatoon Raiders to be determined. So, looking at this, Kirby Air Riders still seems locked in 2025. Good news. And Age of Imprisonment, while it says this winter and people are assuming it's 2025, that's the one I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in 2026. So, going on to the next slide here, the big game that myself and I'm sure many other people are curious about is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Nintendo still has it set for 2025 here with their slides that they are presenting to investors, as well as what's happening in 2026. We have Rhythm Heaven Groove, Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream, and then Pokemon Champions. Naturally, October 16th, we will have Pokemon Legends ZA. That will be a big release for them, since they're also bundling it with the Switch 2, and that'll take the place of Mario Kart World as they head into the holidays. So it is good to see, at least with some of the stuff they're presenting to their investors and their plans for 2025, Metroid Prime 4 is there with that, at least that year under it. But people are probably thinking, well, they could still naturally move it out, and they could. However, when you start to show up to events with it being playable, it becomes a bit more realistic that, oh, wow, okay, maybe it is coming up here pretty soon. Well, we can see this is posted. This is over on Nintendo's website for Fan Expo Canada. The attendees there will have access to play the latest and upcoming titles on Nintendo Switch 2, and they do name a bunch of titles: Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Street Fighter 6, Borderlands 4, Hades 2, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. We still need a release date for that, actually. Well, one game that's also mentioned is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. In fact, at one point, the information here said releasing later in 2025, and it kind of seems like they may have removed that actually at this point now that I'm looking at it. But either way, it did mention later 2025 for Metroid Prime 4 as well. And the fact that you see them showing up to these kind of things, these fan expos where people are playing it, yeah, it does kind of line up for them to be releasing it this year, and I'm still thinking November for that one. They do seem to have a playable demo of some kind. I'm expecting them to show up maybe with what they had at the Treehouse. And they just have something like that, just kind of a curated section of the game, sort of a slice of the level, and you can just kind of play through it and try it out there in person. So that's kind of my expectation at that point. And here's hoping that they do have something set up soonish that will at least make their roadmap for 2025 just a bit more clear, like just with release dates. So at this time, we have this Indie World presentation that's happening today. And then maybe in a few weeks, I'm almost wondering if the final week of August, they just have a general Nintendo Direct and start dating stuff, because it does feel a little late to get into September to start doing that unless you're really going to leave 4 to 6 weeks for some of these titles to go from, announcing with the release date, marketing, get it into retail stores. It does kind of feel like they're getting up against it. So we'll see. I think Kirby Air Riders would be the next game that would release out of those 3, with Metroid Prime 4 in November, and then maybe Age of Imprisonment finding its way to release sometime in 2026, probably the first couple months. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 3 and concerns right now going around online that Sony may have moved in and quietly shuttered the online store connected to it. See, PlayStation Network does still work for the PlayStation 3. You can play online multiplayer with people, and there's no subscription fee there. You just play. Or you can go on the PlayStation Store and buy games digitally on the platform. It's not a great experience. I have videos actually on the channel, even pretty recently, of me attempting to browse it, and while it does work, it's pretty clear they don't really pay attention or do a lot of upkeep on it, so it's kind of broken at times, but yes, it does work. However, not recently. In fact, this, we can see, was posted. This was spotted by Delisted Games, saying developing the PlayStation Store on PlayStation 3 appears to be down. I did check. I plugged in my PS3 just to say, yeah, I get this, as they're showing here actually at the top, there's like this undergoing maintenance message that will pop up as you try to browse the online store. Now, they say they've checked the North American, European, and Japanese PlayStation stores, and all three products have the same results. After browsing or searching the store and bringing up a game page to view its details, the message will pop up and crash back to the cross media bar. Now, it looks like we have Push Square, who also did some testing on this. Same deal. It seems like they tested it in Europe. But just in general, it seems like PlayStation Store on the PS3 is having some issues. And look, we're going to have these kind of things pop up, these headlines, these thoughts pop up. If this happens, like it's maintenance, it could legitimately be seeing maintenance, or Sony, who, again, I'll tell you now, doesn't really pay attention to the PS3 store at all. If you've browsed it recently, again, you know what I'm talking about. There could just be an issue going on and they just haven't gotten to it because, let's face it, it's not high priority for them. I can't imagine many people are browsing the PS3 store, looking at any of the games and moving funds over to their wallet to buy stuff with it. Probably not. But it is something that will naturally be making the rounds here online until it comes back online. It very well could just be an issue that Sony needs to work out, because I do think when they shut down the PlayStation 3 store, I think they will make an announcement ahead of time. I do not see them showing up, shuttering it, and just be like, oh, maybe people won't notice. No, people will notice. They've gone through it once where there's a ton of backlash and they reversed course on it. So I don't think they can they feel like they can sneak in, shut the whole thing down and move on without anyone realizing it. So in this case, I think it's just an issue that's going on and it'll most likely be resolved here. I mean, I want to say in the next 24 to 48 hours, but again, not high priority. It could be like this for the next week or more even. So we'll keep an eye on this to see if either Sony makes a statement saying, yeah, they're shutting the store down, or if it just comes back online because there was just an issue maybe that was going on with the server. Next up, let's talk about a surprise studio revival. I say surprise because I wasn't sure if this sector of gaming would ever really be able to come back. It did feel like a moment in time there back in the day, like at the end of the PS2 generation, start of the 360 and PS3 generation, when it came to the rhythm games. Think of Guitar Hero, Rock Band, DJ Hero. I mean, there were so many of them getting thrown around, right? But they were incredibly popular. However, eventually they fell off completely. There were plastic guitars all over the place, and then they started to go away, and now it's really difficult to find one that's in good shape. They go for quite a bit of money, actually, if you have one that's just decent. However, it looks like we could have some new rhythm games coming out, and we can see this over on Komatsu, where they say RedOctane Games. Yeah, I bet you haven't heard that in a while. A new studio within Embracer Free Mode, founded by veterans of the rhythm game world, has announced its establishment is focused solely on advancing the rhythm game genre, combining the past with the future, and is currently in production on its debut rhythm game to be announced later in 2025. The studio is led by Simon Abiger, the former production director on several Guitar Hero titles at Neversoft, as well as the former studio head of Vicarious Visions and vice president of operations at Blizzard Entertainment. So the thing I've noticed as you're going through here, it seems like they did gather quite a bit of talent who are very experienced with Guitar Hero, DJ Hero, Rock Band, a lot of the games that you may have fond memories of back in the day, playing with your friends, right? Where maybe somebody's on the drums or singing even, or just playing guitar. It seems like it's a lot of the kind of people who are behind those experiences. They even say brothers Charles and Kai Huang, the original founders of the Guitar Hero franchise back in 2005, will join a special advisory board for RedOctane Games, bringing deep heritage and insight to the studio's future direction, saying, quote, rhythm games are about more than just gameplay. They're about feel, flow, and connection to the music and to each other. RedOctane Games is our way of giving back to a genre that means so much to us while pushing it forward in new and exciting directions. We had already heard, like Phil Spencer, when they were Microsoft's buying Activision Blizzard, he did name drop Guitar Hero. And the only thing to me that is a bit of a barrier of entry, but you had to buy the instruments and stuff. And as we saw back then, it got kind of pricey as you went along. I mean, remember those big box sets for Rock Band? They were like $250. I mean, it came with all the instruments, but it was an investment that was, almost as costly as the console you were playing it on. And now I'm thinking about how much more expensive everything's gotten. It's like, okay, how expensive could it get if they decided to go all out and do an entire new Rock Band kind of game? I mean, we're talking or $500 for everything? I'm not sure. So that's, to me, is the big question. I assume they would start with something a bit smaller, maybe something that's like a Guitar Hero game, and just kind of see where the market is with that. But it seems like they have like all kinds of different ideas, as they mentioned, past and future. So this is an interesting one to keep an eye on. They say that at least their debut rhythm game will be announced later on this year in 2025. Maybe that's something that lines up nicely with the Game Awards. I guess we'll have to see. But hey, I guess fans of Guitar Hero and like the old days of, what was that, like 2008, 2009, 2010, that I really remember I was going crazy. Maybe we return it back to those days if they can actually figure this out. So we'll see what they have. And in our last bit of news, we have a bit of an update, sort of on the backstory for Helldivers 2 going to Xbox, because people have been kind of confused about this. There are a lot of questions as to who made this happen. Did Arrowhead lean on Sony, or was it Sony's plan the whole time? Well, we at least maybe have some clarification here, at least another piece of the puzzle. This we can see posted. This is over on Windows Central, and this is the Helldivers 2 CEO. And you can see it's sort of like a Discord here, where they say it was all PlayStation. Send them your thanks. We were all in support, of course, that being an Arrowhead, which, yeah, if you're Arrowhead, you're not owned by Sony. You're just going to have another platform to release on, and you assume then get more people into this game, more microtransactions sold, more money, basically. So, yeah, Arrowhead, they don't care one way or the other. I mean, they'd like to, but at this point, as he goes on to say, I think it's one of the coolest things they've done. They're killing it. So, yeah, this was Sony's call. And that's the thing people have really had a hard time wrestling with. It's like, why would Sony want to move a game to Xbox? Helldivers 2, though, is a live service game. They are releasing live service games on Xbox. I mean, the MLB The Show, you could count that as one because there are microtransactions. There's a lot of like post-release spend, and I know it's MLB, but they also have Marathon. Like, Marathon's going to Xbox, and clearly that's because Bungie has data around things like Destiny 2, which is popular on the Xbox. Helldivers 2 is a shooter. It fits in nicely on the Xbox. So, to be honest, I mean, in Sony's mind, it's money. That's really what it comes down to. Can we make money here with a game like Helldivers 2 on the Xbox? And it seems like, at least based on their research, it's at least worth, at bare minimum, the gamble to move it over. But I think Helldivers 2 will do well on the Xbox. I mean, the shooter genre does generally at least attract an audience on the Xbox. No, it's not on Game Pass, but it's also not like a full price game. It's $40, and it has a lot of word of mouth clearly with Helldivers 2, and there's been a ton of interest with the game. So yeah, I think Sony is making the right bet here in the sense that they will make a bunch of money from it. Now, the idea around brand image and what will they do with the PlayStation if they keep moving games over, it's really hard to say. Who knows what the future of gaming looks like right now, but one thing we do know is Helldivers 2 is coming to the Xbox in, 2 weeks. So we'll see how things go when it does release. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, would you be interested in a new rhythm game like Guitar Hero or Rock Band along with new plastic guitars? Hey, look, 53% say yes, 47% say no. I think a lot of people who were around for the peak of Rock Band and Guitar Hero are thinking maybe with nostalgia then. They're like, oh, I remember those days. I would love to revisit that. But I'm curious how this works out, because I assume they're making up a new brand. I don't think they're not using Guitar Hero, they're not using Rock Band. It's going to be something new. We don't even know if it's going to use a guitar. It could be, maybe they really want to do something with a DJ Hero clone or something. They could be doing something dancing related. They could do their own Just Dance game, and then let's face it, we'll let out a collective groan. Many of us are picturing them to show up with some sort of Guitar Hero style game. So I need to see what they have in mind, because it seems like they're not being as straightforward as, yeah, we're making a new Guitar Hero. But all the people they're hiring on and bringing into the studio, it sounds like they're making a new Guitar Hero game. So that's what I'm expecting for now. And I guess we'll see here in a few months. Again, maybe look towards that, the Jeff Keighley Awards later on this year for that announcement. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Santel, who says, people keep on forgetting that 2025 is the 40th anniversary for Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, I think that's September 13th, so a little more than a month away, but no, we'll get something from Nintendo. I figure they'll just do their own little mini direct or presentation for the 40th anniversary, and I'm sure they'll come up with all kinds of cool stuff to sell you. Don't worry about that. Merchandise will be there, I'm sure. Some kind of video game compilation, a collection. There was the rumor and like a screenshot of a very poorly looking photoshopped Switch 2 box for new Super Mario games that are going to be a collection, which I don't necessarily think that rumor is correct on that, but it wouldn't shock me if they did something with Mario Galaxy 2. You know, they do 4D chess and they bring back the Mario 3D All-Stars collection for a limited time again, and then just take it right back away. So there are a few things they can do, and I'm sure they'll try to celebrate the 40th anniversary the way that these companies know how to, and sell us a bunch of stuff. Hopefully something in there is a really interesting looking video game or collection of some kind. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to check out the latest episode of Spawncast, where we spent a couple hours just talking about the video game world in general. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.